Oh man. See, that's human error. Okay, that's not the actual, like technical error. That was actually human error. All right, we're back, guys. Sorry about that. I just a little misclick there. But we're back with Value Town. I'm ChanManV. That's Noxious, and that's Ekop. And we're just about to talk about harassment, and figure I'd talk about it again. So harassment's been a very common topic in terms of just the gaming community, and particularly notable people, celebrities in the gaming community having some issues with it. And recently we had somebody from our Hearthstone community talk a little bit more about it. Hafu did a piece with Fusion, which is a really nice piece, a video piece if you look it up. But she talked about just, I guess, all her challenges she's had as both a female gamer and just general streamer. Pointing out a lot of interesting points, particularly about being a female streamer slash gamer in the state of streaming right now, and just generally how harassment encouragers or discouragers to do certain things right now. And that's I think that's a concern, something we can talk about. Ekop, obviously, I think we've all been the target of harassment at some point. Ekop probably more than us two here, just given even just looking at Twitch chat right now.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
figure we should talk about it in terms, at least in terms of our community and what we think about it. So I don't know, Noxious, why don't you start, because I'm sure Ekup has like a million things to say about it.
Yeah, well, that's pretty cool. That he has a lot to say because I personally haven't been harassed too much. I mean, initially, like it happened once. There was one harassment episode, and it was very, very mild. To be honest with you, though, I feel like the topic at large is it's just a symptom of being a public figure. I don't mean like, oh yeah, like I'm the president. Just the moment you expose yourself to a crowd,
Yeah, yeah.
and you're trying to be an entertainer or a professional, like an electronic athlete, like some people are pro players, they're gonna get criticism. Now the question is like, what is harassment and like what consists uh, of harassment and what doesn't? Like, at what point does a comment that's derogatory become harassment and not just somebody disagreeing, criticizing, not liking, even if it's not done in a very diplomatic way? Like, is that harassment? What's that point? And I guess that's really the point where I can't find the line.
So
And I guess
defining
it'll depend on the
harassment.
person. Yeah,
Just
defining it is
defining
already a
Honestly,
big problem for me. So
Yeah.
it's honestly just up to the person that is victim of,
right,
like,
exactly.
the supposed victim of harassment. It's basically up to them what they consider as being harassed, because that's that's basically how they take the whole thing, right? If you insult someone, if you insult different people with the same insult, some will get more offended than others,
Yeah,
and
but do you have a right to be offended?
some
Like, do you need a safe space?
some will take it as harassment, some won't. It doesn't really matter what you do. And
Yeah,
if you spam the chat with Kappa123, some people would consider that that
it's
harassment as
true
well.
though. Some people do.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So let's start there. Let's just define what harassment is to you guys, like for each of you guys, and see if, or for all of us, and see if it is consistent. So what do you think harassment is, Noxious, for you?
I guess it's when I've made it clear that I did not want this kind of, I guess, I don't want to, it's not the word relationship, but I don't
Behavior,
want to be
or
engaged in the way that that person is engaging me to continue if I have a say in it. And if they don't like that, if they don't,
if you've
I guess,
expressed it,
follow
okay,
this, if I've
right?
expressed it and
Yeah.
they keep doing it, then I would consider it harassment. But that's the problem is that, am I allowed not to be interacted with? Like, am I allowed to just tell everyone, guys, I need a safe space that's like, 3
Right.
blocks large because I don't want you guys to look at me when I walk in the street. Like, at what point does it just become completely fucking ridiculous? And so I feel like I can't make that call. I just
Yeah.
don't even know what it is.
Okay, Yukop, how about you?
Yeah, well, harassment is, to me, harassment defines itself through the persistence of someone doing something that's unpleasant to the other person, even though he's been told to not do it, right? Like just the persistent obnoxiousness or whatever, like fully knowing that the person doesn't want to be victim of that, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Psychological, I
trolling.
guess,
So things like
tormenting, right? Like
yeah,
you
yeah,
torment
tormenting.
somebody
Mhm.
psychologically.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
for me, it's similar. It has a lot to do with the frequency. Like if somebody says one thing, I don't think that's necessarily harassment, but if they continually do it, and like Noxious said, like if you've expressed that you don't like that, and they continually do it, I think I feel like that's harassment. At least the definition for it, for me. Okay,
Like,
so
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
I don't know. Like, I feel like I've got a question as a follow up to that. Like, let's assume that person, maintains like let's say it's a disagreement of opinion, right? And you
Yeah.
you express an opinion, and they come out, yeah, you put it in public, and they come out disagreeing with it, and they call you out for it, and they keep pestering you about that opinion being bullshit, even if they don't do it in the right way, right? Which happens
Yeah.
sometimes. And you tell them, to stop harassing you with this, this aggressive, dismissive tone, right? You don't like it, and they keep doing it, and they keep doing it. They keep, telling you stuff on Twitter publicly. People can see it. Now you tell them that. Now, at what point can you call that harassment if you keep engaging the public? Like, would you have to withdraw from engaging the public to not be harassed?
Well, so you bring up a good point, because
Yeah.
I think there's a difference between, like, when you're talking about harassment, there's a difference between like one person doing it to you and
Sure.
like a mass of people doing it to you, right? Because with one person doing it to you, there are tools that a lot of these websites or just things that we use every day, like Twitter and Reddit or whatever. We can actually block these people or ignore these
Yeah.
people, and we don't actually have to listen to them, or your mods can ban them or whatever. But I think the issue is when it becomes like a a large amount of people doing it to you, and then so it's
the
like
mob,
it's a
the mob
volume.
mentality.
The mob
Yeah,
mentality,
the
I
mob
guess.
mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ekop, what are your thoughts on just, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, the mob mentality is, of course, a big phenomenon in Twitch, especially with popular streamers, right? You just have one guy saying something funny, and then like
Yeah,
everyone copy pasting it, right?
Yeah.
And sure, that thing might be funny to some people, but to the streamer it might be offensive, and that's when it's considered harassment, especially like when everyone's spamming it, or everyone just has his own variation on it, and it's just at some point even like the toughest individuals will budge to it, right? Like if it attacks them in a direct way, and sure, you can have the thickest skin ever, but in some way it will affect you.
So
Not maybe,
I have a question, like, regarding that point. Does that mean we have a right, like, let's say not a right, like a legal right, but do we have a right not to be offended? Like, is that what it boils down to? Because that
Right
sounds
not
really like.
be
I mean, I'm putting it that way because eventually that's kind of what it leads to, right? Like, I get offended by this guy or that guy. At what point am I allowed to just say that this behavior is not permissible because
Well, at any
I don't
point.
like it?
I mean, why? I mean, you
in
get
my
the right to
opinion, you have all the right in the world
Yeah,
to offend
anytime.
anyone you want, right? But
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like it's okay to offend people because that's what we do as humans. But
Oh, wait. You think it's the? Oh, wait. I thought you were asking when do we have the right to say that we
no,
don't like
no.
it?
Like, do you, Chris, have the right to not be offended? Like, is that a right? Do we all have to
Oh
obey
yeah, of course.
that?
I mean, it's yeah. I mean,
course.
it's not really
What
a
the fuck,
right.
dude?
I mean, we have a right not to be offended by somebody. If somebody says something negative to me, I can choose
Yeah.
not to be offended, or I can choose to be offended, right?
No, but do you have the right to affect the infrastructure surrounding you? Say Twitch. Do you have a right to get that person
is that what you
banned,
mean?
or that person censored, or that person punished? Like, do we start acting on that right for you not to be offended? Because if we do, then I swear to God, everybody's just gonna be censored forever and ever.
Yeah,
ever.
exactly.
Like, it's
Sure.
over. It's just over. So that's
No,
kind of
I
what
mean,
I'm getting at. I don't get it.
it's a challenge, right?
Yeah.
In my opinion, everyone has the right to offend people, right? It's like one of the beautiful things of the internet, right? Everyone on the internet is kind of that internet tough guy, when in reality, in real life, they wouldn't do anything to that person, right? We also saw in the Tafo video, right, that she has so many people trash talking her, so many people talking shit, and whenever she's on offline events,
Nobody
she
does.
would never in the slightest even like get comments like that. Not even
That's
like
true.
hints.
That's true.
That's true for a ton
Everyone-
of people. Yeah.
Pretty nice.
Right.
And because of course nobody would do that, just because it's common sense, right? It's etiquette or whatever you want to call it. Nobody would do that. But on the internet, where anonymous, where everyone's anonymous, kind of, it's just a nice thing to have for people to vent frustrations, for example, or just to just as a vent for frustrations, for example, that yeah,
So that's
your life is shitty. At least I can make this guy's life miserable or whatever, right? And
That is a beautiful
Okay.
world we live in.
it's kind of a
I mean,
drastic way of looking at it, but a lot of people do it honestly, and
well, a
Sure.
lot of people do it, but then that leads to things like cyberbullying and things like
exactly,
that too.
it's
So
not it's not. I
it's
don't
a
say it's a good thing. I don't say it's a good thing, but
yeah.
it's like one of the things that are just natural for humankind. It's like you cannot really
Yeah.
stop that.
So I'll say one thing, and I don't know how, like again where you draw the line, but I feel like if you're putting yourself in the public eye, your right not to be offended just goes out the fucking window because like
Well,
it's a weird way to put it. I
uh,
just don't think it's like death threats, right? Like there's a point where you become big enough that you get death threats. It
Yeah.
happens, and if you start acting on every single fucking death threat, you'll never see the end. Like you'll never get out of your house. And there's a reason why people stop even thinking about those things. It's because they exist. Like people just will send stupid shit on the internet, just hoping to get a reaction out of you, right? Like uh, get you
yeah.
to do something. And now, if you're
Just
putting yourself on the internet in a conversation in a sphere, the moment you get offended by it, you either have the choice to withdraw from that sphere or stay in it. If you stay in it and the environment has changed to where you don't feel at ease in it, then I feel like that's your fucking problem.
yeah.
Well, like I think what you're trying to say is basically whenever you become, very popular,
Yeah,
this is expected. Like you need to figure out a way
sure.
to tolerate this because you're going to get that. And some
It
people
is.
like Total Biscuit, right, will just not allow any comments, right,
That's
on
what I would.
YouTube
That makes so much
and not
sense to
even
me.
yeah. I mean, so people have different ways, I guess, of tolerating it. But yeah,
Yeah.
to your point, yeah, I think if you become popular, if I think it's a bit a matter of just numbers. When you become popular, there's a lot of people that have a chance of, like there's a lot of people that are going to be communicating to you in some way. So, even if it's just like 0.5%, 0.1% of your following, that's going to be a lot of people if you're just really popular, right?
Even point
Um,
zero 0.01, like you need five assholes to keep harassing you.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
five, not
That's
even
right.
like
That's right. So,
you need
it,
nothing.
yeah, it's just there's always going to be people that are going to say things,
Yeah.
troll you, and that sort of thing. And that has, if you're popular, you're just going to have a ton more people doing it to you. So the interesting thing, or I think in terms of like Hafu, is that when you get harassed, there's all kinds of different reasons to harass somebody, right? But
Right.
what about being harassed for, I guess, your gender, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're
Gendered harassment.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about just females. So just female streamers, female gamers, maybe just in our space. Actually, Hearthstone's a really great topic for that because we have a lot of female streamers in Hearthstone, especially new ones that are just getting started. Because Hearthstone's a very accessible game, right, in terms of starting and streaming. And so let's just be honest, right? There's no like crazy mechanics to it, so a lot more people are accessible to being a Hearthstone streamer. All right. So what are your thoughts on just, I guess, female gamers and streamers?
You mean the gendered
Yeah,
harassment?
gender harassment. Yeah.
So there's a weird disconnect between the public discourse of. This is gonna tie into a topic I don't even like to touch on because it just starts like it's just a rabbit hole I don't want to get in. But
Sure.
it's like there's a disconnect between the discourse of feminism and the reality of it, where people want equality on every single front, but they don't want equality on every single front. They want the good shit. They don't want the bad stuff. They don't want like I don't know. I feel like a lot of the modern Tumblr feminism bullshit that floats around the internet has infected, I guess, the hive mind to where there's like this presumed bubble of safety that you could be in if you're a female that males can't be in. They just like if they can be, you say they can
Like
be, but
what
they
safety?
don't
Like,
want
I
it.
don't,
They don't
what do you
care.
mean? What do you mean by
You're not
that?
if you get criticized, then you should not be criticized. Like you can call it out. You should be able not to get criticized for harassment because female, and that's not true of just every single streamer. Like it's not streamer related or streamer specific. It's true of everybody. Like remember Gamergate, how that got blown out of proportion, right? Like I don't even want to touch on the entire thing,
Oh
but like
man,
that got blown
yeah.
out of proportion, and it was partially due to that. There was like a crazy disconnect happening between the discussions, and then one of the discussions that took place just went off to the fucking side, and it had to do with that, like gendered harassment. That's basically in a nutshell, the entirety. Of the issue, and I don't even know if there's such a thing as an isolated bubble of discussion regarding this. Like you could talk about it just for streamers, or just for female streamers of Hearthstone. I think that's like way too narrow. It's like it's way broader than this. So
Okay, Ekop, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. So first thing, everyone is going to get harassed on Twitch in some way. Everyone's going to have to take shit. Every public figure, basically. It doesn't matter who you are, what gender you are, what race you are. It absolutely doesn't matter. You're going to take shit in some way or another. And
Yeah, but
generally speaking, the mob mentality targets, like the mob will always find something to pick on. And it always helps if you're. It always helps the mob if you're. It makes it easier for the mob if you're like a minority of some sort, right? If you have something that sticks out, because you're part of a minority in some way. And yeah, female gamers are a minority. When compared to.
unfortunately,
Yeah,
like
when
I want to
compared
say,
to-
I want to say that. Like I wish there were more.
So obviously they're going to get targeted harder. But it's not like they are the only victims, because
well, we're not saying
everyone-
they're the only victims, but in this
Yeah,
particular case, we're talking about, right?
everyone can be a victim, not just the females. And it's a little bit, I don't know. It's not it's not a good thing to like think that oh yeah, the poor female gamers, they have it so hard in this world, but really like they face the same problems that everyone generally has.
Yeah, dude.
And-
I couldn't find a job with my actual real name in real life for like a year.
What-
So
It's
I'm
just-
getting
so
I'm
wait,
getting
so-
discriminated against.
Harassment in
No.
harassment in
Okay.
general.
Oh,
for
you mean
every-
just because of
every
your
publisher.
nationality? Okay, I get.
In general, what I want to
Yeah.
say before
Go
as
ahead.
well, before we switch to the gender-specific topic, it's that as long as you're a public figure, you will have this challenge of harassment, and how you have to deal with it is up to you, right? That's what we already established. But yeah, all it takes for you is to be a public figure, because you are not. Because once you become the public figure, right, you are not anonymous anymore. People know who you are, and therefore you also automatically become part of a minority, because the majority is the anonymous Twitch chat or whatever platform you are on.
The mob.
Well,
Yeah,
the vocal
Be
majority
it on Twitch, be it on Facebook, be it on YouTube, you always see the chat or the comment sections with a bunch of trolls trying to trigger you every time, and it doesn't matter who you are. I get a lot of hate on
Well,
Facebook and
okay,
on,
so-
YouTube as well as on Twitch. So it doesn't matter if you're female or male or what kind of personality you have. You will always get hate.
Well, you'll get everybody will get their everybody
but-
will get their troll comments. That's I won't disagree with that at all. But it's about the percentage and the volume that is dependent upon the person. Like Noxious, you told me, you don't get that much. Like you started off this whole
Well, I've gotten
conversation
a
by
bit.
yeah, but you probably don't get as much as Ekop, right?
Well, I mean, it depends how much I don't get that much I don't get that much harassment. You know, people might hate me. I might get the occasional really shitty message.
yeah, we all get
like,
that. I mean, that's totally par for the course.
Sure.
You could be the nicest guy, the day nights or whoever, and you're gonna always get one of those, right?
Yeah.
Like,
so-
the way you deal with it is just by saying I don't really give a fuck. And I don't mean that, like, even if you do give a fuck, you don't say that you give a fuck. And if it ever reaches a point where you really can't deal with it, I think removing yourself from whatever sphere it is that you're being in pain is, if the cost of being in that environment is bigger than the benefits that you get out of it, I think that's the point where you should just leave, instead of trying to get everybody to conform to your standards of, I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's what we're
behavior.
okay. So this is what we're
So-
talking about, the whole female thing, because
Yeah.
I think the female thing, you're right, Ekop. It's all about just being some aspect that they can pick on and get under your skin and that sort of thing, and it usually has something to do with who you are or why you're unique in some way. And in this particular case,
Yeah.
we're talking about gender. It could be race. The race is a huge one too.
Yeah, or it could be something you've done or said or whatever. It's
Like sniffing a chair.
Yeah, sniffing your chair. Yeah, sniffing your chair.
Yeah.
too. No, but
exactly. It can be anything, as long as it sticks out and it can be like picked on by a whole mob. And like it's basically once the mob gets a hold of whatever you've done or said or whatever you are, then yeah, it's basically over. You just
Yeah,
you just have that go for you.
no, but think about what you're saying though, Noxious. When like
Personally,
Sure, go ahead.
So
put it into
Well,
perspective.
one second, Ekop, I'll let you get to it in just a second. But just to address like what you just said there, Noxious, like they should just leave it, they can handle it. See, the issue with female gaming is that they just get it just for being a female, right? And they get a lot because I think that the general, I mean, there's a lot of the Twitch chat, vocal Twitch chat that likes to harass females. Let's just be honest, right? And that seems to be something that's prevalent on Twitch.
But it's a bigger discussion than just Twitch.
It is, but let's just talk about Twitch and streaming, just because this is our space, right? Okay, we could talk about
But
it.
you can't.
Dude, we can
you
totally
literally can't. It's like talking about, the revenue of people who make YouTube videos and the general state of the economy related to how many people are working in that sphere, because they were, modifying the field that they were working in to work on YouTube. Like you can't start ignoring people who worked elsewhere. Like it's too broad a topic. The moment you start about talking about gender, it's just it's a rabbit hole. I don't even think you want to get into it, dude.
I mean,
It'll
I
be like
agree. I agree that we could do
Genderstone.
like an entire episode on that, but
Genderstone.
Genderstone,
I like that.
Genderstone, your gender gate.
Those are my
Genderstone.
testicle gender stones. That's what I call them.
Oh my gosh! No, but Ekop, you were gonna say something before I. What were you gonna say before I wanted to address that point?
Oh
real
yeah,
quick?
no, just that for me personally, the whole thing that I did on that last value town that I was on, right? If you remember, the whole
Yes, yes, I
the whole
remember the
thing,
Trump
right?
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that still haunts me to this day, basically, because
It was such a non. I mean,
I still to this day I get commented on YouTube that oh yeah, you're such a piece of shit because you hated on Trump on
Oh
value.
come on! No
oh
way.
God, yeah.
And like, really, dude, really, that shit is long in the past, but yeah.
That is bad.
People
dude.
still
That
people
sucks. I
still-
mean, that sucks, right? That you still get that.
So that's what I'm talking about. Like just have to have done one thing, and then the mob will just when it catches onto the mob will just hold it up to you for the rest of your existence, basically.
Yeah, but to your point, Noxious, I know. I just wanted to touch on it, just given that obviously it came up, and it was a topic of discussion in our community this past week. But we could have like a super long rabbit hole discussion on it. But I just figured, just a tiny little discussion.
Genuinely
that would be
though,
good.
like
Yeah.
to not like
People-
start trying to try to narrow the focus. I wish I wish there were so many more female gamers that played competitively that it became like gays in the workplace. Right, like it took a while for like back in the days. You had somebody who was gay in the workplace, like a special thing. Nowadays, I'd say the generation that we're part of, at least where I live, of course, like I guess it depends where you live. Obviously, it's becoming more accepted, or at least it's more the norm. It's not something that you're gonna get shocked by, and I'd like it to get to the same point where you just have so many female streamers or so many solid female gamers. And I mean, because Hafu, funny enough, like. I want to say she's the exception to the rule because there's a lot
She
of
is.
female gamers in the environment
Louise.
of gaming, but they're not nearly as good performance-wise as she has been. Like I don't know how much you can just point at Hafu and say, oh, she's just getting people because she's a girl. It's not that at all. There's a combination. It might be a part of the appeal, but it's definitely not the whole thing. And so we need more competent female gamers if you really want to get away from the whole harassment stuff. I think
Well, it's a
that'd be
chicken
step
and the
one.
egg thing, Noxious. Like you
It
can't,
is,
you
right?
can't
You
have
can't
that,
get-
and you're telling people to leave if they don't, like
If they
it's
can't
not-
cope, yeah.
Yeah, so it I guess what you're saying is it takes a special.
We're waiting
like,
for
a
someone who
special
will suck
person.
it up. We're waiting for someone who will suck it up to get more females into this sphere.
Well, somebody that will suck it up, and somebody that will rise to be like in Hearthstone, right? Somebody that actually wins the world championships or wins a huge event. I think it would be a huge thing, and that's kind of what we're waiting for. I mean, we happen to have two female streamers that are really good at their game, right? With Eloise and Hafu.
Yep.
In our community. That's not that prevalent in a lot of other communities. So Hearthstone is a game or an esport where just literally anybody, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm not going to bring up the whole gender thing, when it comes to like skill and that kind of thing either, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying like literally anybody in the world can become the best player at this. Like there's no physical mechanics to this or anything. So as long as you have a bright mind, you can definitely become the best player here. So I think there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity in the Hearthstone space to actually make a difference with things regarding at least gender or maybe even race too. I don't think we have as big of a race issue in Hearthstone, but but definitely the female thing
I don't
seems
think
to
so.
be a huge issue. So hopefully somebody out there will be able to achieve that for us. Okay, so let's move on to Q&A. We'll take some questions. Again, you can tweet ValueTownGG, and we'll try to read out as many questions as we can here, but we have a few already. So let me start with, okay, Zeke Fox has a question about Ooze and Harrison. He says, do you think there should be a middle ground between Ooze and Harrison? Ooze is too weak, and Harrison is too good, and 1600 dust.
I actually think the use is perfectly fine.
Yeah,
It
same.
only seems weak because Harrison Jones. It's great. The use is amazing. Like, and I'm not even biased saying this. I think the use is a great card. It's just unfortunate that Harrison Jones makes it look like dirt, and even then, some classes still prefer it. If you narrow it down to something like Handlock, where they just don't want to draw more cards than they already have.
Yeah, exactly. This is perfectly fine. I feel like it has its place in some decks, or even over Harrison, where Harrison would just be weaker because of the cost, for example. Like, who would ever want to pay 5 mana for a 5/4?
A vanilla
Like
5/4?
A vanilla.
Depends. Does it come
I mean,
with,
5
does it
mana
come
for
with
a
taunts,
5/4
and
is
does it
pretty weak,
insult
right?
me when it comes into play? That's all I need to know.
Does it insult me?
Is
when
my
it
mom
comes
a
into
Murloc
play?
when it's played? I just want to know that.
Oh man.
Yeah, but that would be 4 mana, so that's even better, and even that in one place. So Harrison's stats sometimes just make it that you don't want to play it, and then you would prefer Ooze because Ooze has good stats for its cost.
Yeah, I'd maybe tone down Harrison a bit, but I think Ooze is good.
Yeah, agreed. Hunter Robertson asks, how do you guys feel about a 2v2 game mode for Hearthstone? How would you format it, and what would the win condition be?
Wow.
I mean, the win. I feel like. I mean,
one
kinda,
hero, 2 hands, or
Wait,
two
what?
heroes, 30 health
What was the
each?
question again?
So how do you guys feel about like a 2v2 game mode? Just
Okay.
some kind of game mode that has 2v2.
Go
And
ahead.
how would you format it? And what would the win condition be? I think win condition is just killing both guys. It's either that or there's
Assembling Exodia. It's like,
well, yeah, it's either that or there's a single avatar you protect, like a single hero you protect, but you have multiple hands. I think that
that'd be so cool, where you have like this avatar in the back, and you have 2 heroes trying to just keep it alive.
defend it, yeah,
Yeah,
defend it.
like think of it as like a MOBA in card form.
Yeah, so you'd have like the heroes like on the right and left side,
Yeah.
and then you'd have the things that you're protecting maybe top and bottom, and you still have your heroes, so you can choose whether to kill the heroes or to attack the avatar.
I'd
right?
like that.
Yeah,
That's
something
cool.
like that. I think
Yeah,
that'd
it
be
sounds
cool.
like a good idea.
Yeah,
That's great, man. I love that idea. I'd totally play that.
That'd be pretty cool. Let's see. Next up, Fuili asked, "How do you guys feel about the current season setup and how BlizzCon points are rewarded through short seasons? Do you like the ladder system? Do you like points being given out to some events? Do you like just the system so far? What we've seen in just this first month of the, or maybe 2 months of the championship circuit or whatever."
Yeah, definitely. I think it's great personally. The whole HCT system is amazing, and Blizzard should definitely keep it up. I like it a lot.
Okay, Noxious?
It's an improvement, I think, but it's not quite there. We've talked about this topic quite a bit before. The whole, how the way points are given and how reliant the entire ladder experience is on those last few pushes. So yeah, I mean that kind of sucks, but it harkens back to the problem that we had probably about tournament formats. Like the whole, we would like maybe Swiss, if there were like an in-client Swiss system, once a week, every Friday, there's like this crazy event you can attend, and that's where you start getting points. Like I'm talking hypothetically, but like, would that be better perhaps, instead of being just the same ladder that everybody participates on, needs to push for?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel the same way. I mean, again, if we're talking about the format that's already been established here, I think so far it's looking good. I want to wait until at least the entire season is over, at least for this first season, just to get a look at, because this first season is almost like, I wouldn't say a test run, but all the kinks and stuff will be worked out this one. Like they had that issue with these small tournaments, some people rigging them and stuff like that. So they're fixing those issues, and we'll see some more kinks along the way. But yeah, it's hard to judge right now, but so far it's not bad, that's for sure. So and it's
better.
it's a little bit better. Yeah, it's definitely better than what we had before. Okay, Arthur Kazantsev asks, do you think the rise of new players in winter prelims shows the variance in Hearthstone is too high, or the old pros just had it easy? All right, Ekop, you can take this one, buddy.
Is the variance in
Is the Hearthstone too
Hearthstone
high, or
too high because the winter prelims showed not like a lot of newcomers?
No, I wouldn't say it's too high. I think it's perfectly fine. Yeah, the only problem though is, as I said before, is that because of the lack of innovation, the skill cap of pro and pleb doesn't really. It's not. The skill difference is not that high because everyone is just playing the same decks, and then it all comes down. Then when everyone is kind of on the same level, like everyone is a legend player, and when everyone's on the same level, everyone has the same decks, then it all comes down to luck, really. The play skill that is still different because the pros on average will make less mistakes than the plebs. They will make less mistakes, but on average it doesn't compare to the amount of it doesn't compare to the impact that
Right.
luck has.
Yeah.
it's more like a 60-40 difference, right? And you still 40% of the time could lose, even if you're the better player, right? Compared to if you actually had a better deck too, which would give you a higher percentage of winning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And like I said before, if during a tournament, at the end of the meta, you cannot distinguish good players from bad players.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because of the way it's done. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
definitely.
Exactly. You just have to have a fresh meta in order to distinguish them distinguish players in terms of play skill. Yeah,
At
you
least
just
the
need-
deck building portion, so that's cool.
Yeah, yeah. Jonathan Vale, what do you think about he asks, what do you think about a tournament with a draft arena format, like limited in Magic?
Like sealed?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of did one.
Kind of have that, yeah.
We had the team brawl, the Red Bull team brawl that was team sealed, and I thought it was great. I thought that tournament was fun, like super fun. Outside of the little production issues, but that was, that's something that they worked out. The next time they do it, I think it'll be run very, very smooth.
Yeah.
I don't know, what are your thoughts, Ekop? What do you think?
I'm sorry, I'm completely spaced out.
It's like
No,
arena. It's like the arena 110
sealed,
challenge.
the sealed
right?
format. Yeah, what do you think about sealed format?
Oh,
Like,
the sealed, yeah, the
Yeah.
sealed is amazing. You mean the one that on TempoStorm.com is available?
Yeah.
On TempoStorm.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's the team sealed format. It's actually amazing. It's been a type tested formula as well from Magic that originated in Magic the Gathering,
Yeah.
and definitely a cool thing to do in Hearthstone as well. I tried it out myself. It's very fun. I suggest everyone tries it as well. And it could be a competitive format as well, I would say.
Absolutely. Yeah. The deck building is primordial.
Yeah, exactly. It's there's a lot of variety. Just like in Arena, you will never have the same deck twice, ever, and it's just a lot of variety, and that's what makes it so appealing, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So also, yeah, of course, the challenge of building 3 decks out of a limited card pool in a limited amount of time is just
Entertaining.
just-
It's cool. Yeah.
it puts emphasis on creative deck building skill as well, and there's also like another factor how to distinguish good players from bad players as well. So it can be a really competitive format if you want it to be.
Yeah. In my opinion, it could be the best representation of the most, versatile Hearthstone players, like that type of format, because
That's true.
like when you're all 9 classes are available to you, right? And a lot of times you'll have to be able to play all 9 classes well, because and have a good understanding of the cards too. A lot of times, because you never know what cards are coming out, right? It's going to be heavy on one side, or at least the good cards will be heavy in one class or a few classes, and how you do that. And it's not, there's probably going to be always one class that's just not very good, right? And figure out even just how to build that one the best is going to be, it's just a challenge. There's a lot of skill involved with that. So, okay, let's see. Maybe time for one more. Let's see. There's a good one. Okay, so Tommy asks if some people are, I guess, offended. Wait, if some people are offensive and not constructive, why don't you ban them? Everybody doesn't need to have Forson's chat.
Okay, wow, that's tough. Because basically that's the way you end up justifying doing anything you want as a leader of anything. Like it's broader. I mean, you can't do that. If everybody started doing this, then can you imagine the world? I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. That's. I
It's
mean, if everybody did it, then yeah, there would just be a bunch of. I don't know, just be a bunch of safe places. I guess. I mean, safe spaces. I
yeah,
guess.
safe spaces.
But
Like where do you stop?
I mean, there wouldn't be as much
No, I mean it's their
discussion.
channel,
I'm
their
not. I
channel, their
mean,
rules, right? You
yeah,
can do whatever you want there. You can block people and you
It's
can ban
yeah,
personal
as many
space,
people
yeah.
as you want.
yeah.
It's your personal stream, so it's your personal space. So
That's
you
fine.
can have
But
any rules you want, but
Yeah. I mean, you have to
sure.
remember, guys. Like, some of the,
wait, so wait, was
none
he asking basically
like.
like if it's your channel, why don't you do this? Is that what he was talking about? Like if it's your
I think
channel,
so,
why
right?
don't you put that? Because
Yeah,
I
I think
was
that's
seeing
what
it as
he's
a
that's what he's
broader
saying.
idea.
I think what
Okay,
he's
never
saying.
mind. I
Yeah.
thought he meant like why don't we get like some kind of overarching dude banning people who are being offensive left and right? Because the way Twitch works is good. You can ban people individually and nobody cares. That it's
It
like
can be
your
Yeah.
tricky
space.
though.
It's
It can be tricky though if it's just 5 people. It's easy, like
Yeah.
the 5 assholes of Noxious, right? But it can also be like 5,000, like in Forsen's
Yeah.
chat. Who knows, right?
yeah, but Forsen,
How do you ban 5,000 people? Do you really want to go through the
well,
trouble doing all that? It can be hard, you know.
well, I mean, Forsen's chat is, I mean, that's like an appeal to Forsen's chat at this point, right? I don't think Forsen actually even cares about necessarily what's in it, but
Of course,
so,
Forsen.
yeah, yeah.
Who need to care about what's in his chat? He's like, you know what?
I mean,
That'll
how
fly.
could you care? I mean, you can't even
Yeah.
watch it I mean, you can't even keep up
Exactly.
with it, so.
You cannot
Yeah.
read the chat.
Yeah,
You
so
cannot read.
his chat's a totally different thing. But I think generally, especially with like people that don't get as many viewers, there's actual discussion with people, right, on your chat. Like the bigger you get, the harder it is for that to happen. When you get like 10,000, 20,000
Yeah.
Twitch viewers and you have like 2,000 people in your stream chat, it's hard to have any kind of conversation, right? So for the smaller streams that actually have conversations, then sometimes that's just an appeal to folks that come there, or even just the streamer itself. When that starts to deteriorate too, because of trolling and that sort of thing, that's when I think, you should be able to do whatever you want. I mean, just generally in your channel, you can do whatever you want, but I can totally understand it. If you're not having fun streaming, then it's like, why are you streaming, right? Or if you stream just to interact with your chat and you're not having fun with that, then that a lot of times ends up resulting in people just stopping streaming. Okay, well, I think that's it for the questions. Thanks everybody for tweeting your questions. We always appreciate that. That's always a big part of the show. But I think we'll wrap up the show. Ekop, you got any shout outs? Thanks for coming on, man. It's been a long time, so it's always great having you on. And
Yeah, thanks for inviting me back on the show. I really enjoyed it. Too bad Reynad couldn't make it. I had plenty of Ekop is in everything jokes lined up, but now I have no one to share it with. So
I cancel last minute. Yeah.
Cup isn't everything.
Shout out to all my fans and shout out to my team, and thank you very much for having us again.
Cool. Noxious, how about you?
Same as usual. Touch out for the complexity, and obviously to you guys who are doing this show. Chen, we appreciate the show. It's fun. I help organize it, but honestly, you do most of the work. So
yeah,
props.
appreciate that, man. And I'll just thank you guys for doing the show with me, and I want to thank obviously Tempest Storm for sponsoring the show and their sponsor Switch and G2A there, and.
Right.
All like we have a Patreon for ValueTown, patreon.com/ValueTown if you want to pledge and support the show. That's awesome. Those people are the best and can help the show continue. Next week I want to do a show either on casting or like production. I want to have Milk on the show one of these days, man. Like because I don't think he's ever been on. Has he ever been on one of these shows or Cam? But one of these times we're going to do something on production too, and once the cards come out, guys, I know this was like a very like non-card centric type of show. Once the cards come out, you can guarantee we'll have like consecutive episodes that are just talking about the meta and all that good stuff. But for now, that's going to be it for Value Town. So for Ekop, Noxious, and myself, ChanManV, we'll see you next week. Peace.
Take care.